Good morning students, welcome to today's class. Today we will see one subtopic of our chapter ecosystem. Today's topic is ecological pyramids, and in this session we will see what are ecological pyramids, what are the different types of ecological pyramids, and the limitations of ecological pyramids. What are ecological pyramids? The ecological pyramids are the graphical representation of energy, mass, and the number of organisms in different trophic levels of a food chain. It expresses the food and energy relationship between different trophic levels such as primary producers, consumers at different level in a food chain. And there are different types of pyramids, pyramids of biomass, pyramid of number, and pyramid of energy. As you have studied in earlier class, a pyramid is such a structure generally which has a broad base and a narrowing apex. In the same way, most of the ecological pyramids also having a broad base and narrowing apex. At the same time, in some food chain, we can see the inverted pyramids also with a broad apex which is narrowing towards the base. So, in ecosystem, we can see basically two types of food chain on the basis of shape. First one is upright pyramid where the base is broad and apex is narrowing. Whereas the other one is the inverted pyramid with a narrow base which broadens as we go up to the higher trophic levels. Let us discuss about the pyramid of biomass. In this food chain, you can see there are producers, primary consumer, secondary consumer, and tertiary consumer. And in these four linked food chain, four links are there. Four trophic levels are there. In this food chain, what is happening to the biomass? When we moving from producer level to the tertiary consumer level, there is a reduction in the biomass. And this reduction in the biomass is depicted through the smaller rectangles of that pyramids. The producer level is comparatively larger. Primary consumer is still smaller, secondary consumer is still smaller, and it goes on like this. So, giving the shape of an upright pyramid. This we can represent in this way also. That is, if we are indicating the dry weight of these organisms or trophic levels, we will get a pyramid in this way. And what is the most important point we noted? There is a great reduction in the biomass of organism in the higher trophic levels. Reduction may be comparatively less in lower trophic levels, means producer level to the primary consumer, whereas when we are going to the last trophic level, the reduction in the weight of the organism is very high. Then there may be inverted pyramids also in some food chains. For example, in this food chain, actually this is a food chain of aquatic ecosystem which consists of producers, most of them are planktons, and on that small fishes are depending, which are herbivores. Carnivores depend on these herbivorous fishes. So in this three trophic level food chain, you can see the biomass is increasing. When compared to producers, herbivores or the primary consumers having a greater biomass and carnivore having still higher biomass. So giving ecological pyramid an inverted shape. Then let us discuss about the pyramid of number. As we have seen in pyramid of biomass, let us consider a food chain which consists of producers, consumers at different level. In this case, their depending on the plants, and the lion depend on deer. In this food chain, you can see, as the picture depicts, there is a great reduction in the number of organisms to the higher trophic level. So, what is happening in this food chain? Why there is a reduction in the number of organisms? Just assume that if there is more number of organisms in the higher trophic level, they won't get a sufficient amount of food. Thereby, they won't get a right amount of energy for their sustenance. Naturally, there will be a tendency to decrease the number of organisms to the higher trophic levels of this ecosystem. You can see in this food chain, when we start with a very huge number of organisms in the primary producer level, the number of consumers in different trophic level increases, and in tertiary consumer level, merely 3 individuals only present. So the energy and mass biomass stored in the previous trophic level is sufficient to support just 3 number of organisms, that species, that trophic level. That is why it happens. So then in case of pyramid of number also, pyramid of number may be inverted in some cases. If you consider a food chain like this, it's a parasitic food chain. You can see parasite as well as hyperparasites are present here. The producer is a single tree. On that single tree there are hundreds of herbivorous birds different. They eat berry or fruits from these birds, and on the body of these birds there are different types of parasites like lice and bugs. Then there are certain hyperparasites like flea also, which depending on lice and bugs. So altogether this become a parasitic ecosystem. When we calculate the number of organisms of these different trophic level, we can found that the number of organisms in higher trophic level is very high when compared to the lower trophic level. Thereby, the pyramid of number in a parasitic food chain looks inverted. Let us see about the next type of pyramid, that's pyramid of energy. When we are discussing about the pyramid of energy, you have the information that the energy flow in ecosystem is unidirectional, and further it follows a 10% law. So we need to apply the same law to the pyramid of energy also. In this food chain, which consists of 4 trophic levels, the pyramid become an upright one, because from every trophic level there is a loss of large amount of energy in the form of heat. So the amount of energy present in the trophic level decreases as we moving from the left hand side to the right hand side of the food chain, or from the base to the top of that pyramid. Thereby the ecological pyramid that we construct look like an upright pyramid. Further, you can see that there is a 90% loss of energy in case of food chain. If we start with 10,000 joules of energy present in primary producer, when we reach the level of tertiary consumer, there will be merely 10 joules of energy. So here it indicates that the flow of energy follows a 10% law. Only 10% of energy of a trophic level is transferred to the next trophic level, whereas the 90% of energy will be lost in the form of heat to the surrounding. When compared to the pyramid of number and the pyramid of biomass, the pyramid of energy is always upright because it follows a 10% law as we have studied earlier. Now let's come to the limitations of ecological pyramid. You have seen that the ecological pyramids are pictorial representations, so it's very easy to understand the number of organisms, the amount of biomass as well as the amount of energy present in different trophic levels. By adding colors, it will look attractive. At the same time, the ecological pyramid poses certain limitations. When we discuss the limitations, the first one, while constructing an ecological pyramid, it doesn't take account of those species which belong to two or more trophic level. We know very well that birds like a crow, they catches insect. It eat dead matter. It eat fruits also. So because of this varying food habit, it occupy two or more trophic level. So it is not considered in the case of construction of ecological pyramids. So we want to get a correct picture about the number of organisms or the biomass present different trophic level, in the same way the amount of energy. Further, we know in an ecosystem it is actually a food web that exists, whereas we are constructing ecological pyramid on the basis of a food chain only, which is not existing really. There is a second limitation of ecological pyramid. Further, saprophytes are an important group of organisms in every ecosystem. It is helping the decomposition of detritus, and in terrestrial ecosystem, as we have seen, large amount of energy is transferred through the detritus food chain. However, when we construct an ecological pyramid, these decomposers or saprophytes were not taken into account. Thereby, we are not able to depict the complete picture about the biomass and the number of organisms as well as the amount of energy flowing through the system. That become the important limitation of ecological pyramids. So dear students, today we have seen what are ecological pyramids and the different types of pyramids, the conditions where the pyramid of number and the pyramid of biomass become inverted. Further, we have seen some limitations of ecological pyramids.